Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you're clapping. It's so nice. My name's Ricky Camilleri. Welcome to Build. Our next guests are the creators, writers, and stars of the absolutely wonderful series Catastrophe, which sadly comes to an end tomorrow when its fourth and last season airs on Amazon Prime. For these past 4 seasons, Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan have perfectly captured the ups, downs, and mundane middles of long-term relationships, parenting, and the never-ending pains of growing up, no matter how old you are. Let's take a look at season 4 of Catastrophe.
You haven't drunk since?
No.
Why not? And what's changed other than that pussy magnet around your neck?
It's humiliating.
It's probably less humiliating than having to ask a judge's permission to go to your wife's funeral because you backed over her in the driveway, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, have a great weekend.
I have my AA meeting tonight.
Again?
Well, I mean, you don't really graduate from alcoholism.
So I'm supposed to watch Game of Thrones on my own, like a pervert. Have you thought about a bit of therapy?
I'm going to AA, I'm working in a charity shop, plus my real job, and I'm doing the best I can.
Those are for Frankie's lunch.
Really? Did he pay for them? Or did I? We've been invited to a dinner with the big Brabant boss and his wife.
Oh, God, really? I mean, should I be chatty like Michelle Obama, or should I be more like Jackie Kennedy? You know, like, don't say much, but when I do say something, really make it count. Like slag off the Queen.
I think I'm gonna say you can't make it. I feel like having kids is like strapping yourself to a Formula One race car, you know? Boom, your life is over. But not in a bad way.
I like that you're broken like me.
Looks great. Oh, it's for my mother-in-law's funeral.
It sucks not having a mom. I don't care that I'm 56, I still want my mommy.
I just look in the mirror and I'm like, ugh. Can you fix that here?
I'm afraid your cholesterol level is quite high for a woman your age.
Medically, you're saying if you took a normal-sized mannequin and built it with meatballs and margarine, that'd be me.
Fine.
I like that you're broken like me. Maybe that makes me a fool.
I'm so tired I could cry.
Well, put on your sunglasses and cry. Sir?
Thanks. I'll get in a minute.
Everybody, please welcome the great Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan of the great Catastrophe, which is sadly coming to an end. How does it feel?
It feels
I mean, you've been
sad.
done for a while, right?
Yes, we finished shooting, you told me yesterday, in July.
Yeah.
And then it went out on UK TV in January. But it's kind of been nice. It's sort of taking a while to come to screen and to come out here because it's like a stay of execution because it means I can pretend the show is still happening for a bit longer.
Do you feel like you need that?
Yeah, I need some sort of emotional
we
support.
loved doing it. We're very proud of it. I mean, yes, we chose to end it, but still, you know, it's a difficult thing to do. But we said what we wanted to say. You know, it's I don't have anything else to say personally about you know, early years of marriage and raising young kids. So we didn't want to make any bad episodes.
But it doesn't necessarily get easier raising kids and getting older and marriage, right?
But I also don't get any smarter or more creative. So,
you know, you guys, I remember interviewing you guys for I think it was the first or the second season, and you had talked about how you met. Basically, it was kind of like online in a way, right? Over Twitter, and you were sort of talking about ideas. And while you've been doing this, has there been talk of new ideas together, or does it feel like this is really the idea that you had together, and that's it?
We used to sort of bandy about a few ideas. And then, I don't know, this show, it's just the two of us writing it, and it takes up a lot of time. And so it's sort of been all about that, really, so far.
yeah, 'cause we executive produce it and then star in it and then write it. So we don't even have time to like think of what we're going to eat for lunch. We eat the same salad every day for lunch and the same soup. We just push a lunch button, and no discussing. If one of us falls asleep, and by one of us I mean me, then I'm sent outside of the building and I have to run around it a few times and then come back into our office. It's a very focused enterprise. It's a lot like the Delta Force.
I heard something this morning where you referenced your love of the Delta Force.
I talk about them a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Your love? Is it the Norris movies?
Well, Sharon would never put the Delta Force in the show, so I had to find other places to express my love for the Delta Force and my desire to be. I mean, I'm too old, fat, and not good enough to be in them, but so I listen to a lot of podcasts about them.
You created this whole career for yourself so you could do interviews and podcasts where you could talk about the Delta Force and finally be listened to.
Correct. Yes, and Sharon, I want to thank you for supporting me in that.
You're welcome.
When did you guys decide that this would be the last season?
Just a little while before we started writing it,
Yeah,
I'd
in
say.
between 3 and 4.
Yeah. And it was kind of interesting because it was the hardest one to write.
Why?
I guess because, like Rob said, that we sort of had already said quite a lot about, being in a married couple who have got children, and it was just, I think, harder to find story that excited us, that we felt was worth kind of talking about and that interested us, and also because it's the last one. We just felt like we wanted to make it count. Like, we didn't want to wear the fact that it's the last season on its sleeve really heavily, but we knew we wanted to get to a point with the last episode that felt like a good emotional payoff for the show.
Yeah, I loved the last episode. I thought it was a wonderful emotional payoff. It's also a wonderful way to say good. I don't want to spoil anything, but to say goodbye to Carrie, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
can say
okay.
that,
I mean, she passed away in real life, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, I mean, when you decided to sit down and write the show, how did you talking about her death or her character's passing?
Can I just say quickly, I know usually on this show you don't have celebrities as big as us. I saw pictures of like Samuel L. Jackson and stuff back there, but nobody, huge. I mean, just like Reese Witherspoon. Is this glass secure enough for people as big, if there were like an incident, are we protected? I'm just curious, as we are the largest celebrities that have been on the show.
We tell you that you are, but you're not.
You never know.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's bulletproof. Don't worry.
It was the hardest thing to figure out how to deal with Mia, Carrie's character in the show, because obviously, like you said, everyone knew that she's no longer with us, and she's an enormous star who's known all around the world, and so. It was hard for there to be any kind of element of surprise. So what we decided to do was to wait until our final episode and, I guess sort of make it a bit of a tribute to her in a way that would make her laugh, I think. That's what we tried to do.
I think also she became a larger part of each season. She was a fairly small part of the first season, then bigger in the second, and then much bigger in the third. And we were so sad that we didn't get to spend more time with her in the fourth one, because we would have used her even more. So I honestly think we don't even grapple with the issue until the end, because we were pretending that she wasn't dead, because we didn't want her to be.
How did she become a bigger part of each season? Is it the idea that, like, let's write this thing for Carrie? It'll be amazing to watch her say this, because that is how it feels while you're watching the show.
Yeah. I mean, we never got her for that long each season, did we? We never really had her for a huge amount of time.
I think we didn't dare ask her to do that much in the first one. And then we're like, maybe we'll ask for a little more. And then by the third time, we were like, oh, I think she enjoys it.
She likes it,
and so by then, we were like, let's have some fun. And I mean, she was amazing. And so that's why her role grew, is because we grew less afraid to ask her to do more.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first season, I think it was 1 day's filming. Is that right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it was like nothing. Yeah. But we were just really happy that in season 3 that we got to spend proper time with her and with that character, and sort of, thank God, did something with it that felt like she was more than just a sort of comedy foil. She was more than just a monster. You kind of monster mother-in-law kind of thing. You kind of got to know her and like why she became that person. And I think with this season now, we sort of tried to push that even more, like just to tell the audience a bit about her and how great she was.
Yeah, you answer those questions even more at the end of this season without giving anything away, with the appearance of a wonderful, evil kind of character that comes up in the last episode.
Evil.
I'm curious, you say that you don't want to go into a new season sort of repeating yourself, and all of your stories are told, and obviously with each season, you have to kind of raise the stakes on the characters. Did it start to feel like those stakes were going to be sort of external and outside of your own experience, and you were just going to be raising them for the sake of raising them, and was that kind of a reason to pull out?
Ooh, that's a good question. That would be terrible if that were to happen. We didn't feel that. I mean, any of the challenges that we put before Sharon and Rob in this season feel quite realistic. And so, yeah, I mean, I think if we were sitting down to do a fifth one and we were like, this should probably happen in a space station, then maybe I'd be worried about that. But there's plenty happening in the world to provide stories for them that felt real, I think.
Yeah, and this season it feels very real. I think I meant like as you were moving, did it feel like if you move forward, it would start kind of becoming that?
I think so.
Yeah, we were worried about that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm suddenly worried I've got breakfast on my teeth, so I'm just going to do
There's none on this side.
No, you're good. You look great. How can you tell when it starts feeling that way? How can you tell when the stakes and the ideas start feeling non-germane to the project?
I think when you sort of start scrambling around for ideas just that little bit more. I mean, as the seasons progressed, we definitely use less of our own experiences. We had the characters, and the characters had kind of grown over the seasons, so they were able to provide us with story. Right. But still, at the same time, I don't know. One of the great things about writing the show is we really do feel like we get to talk about stuff we really care about, and it's not like we're suddenly going to stop caring. But if you're just pulling out story for the sake of a sort of a sitcom-y kind of twist, then it becomes less interesting to do, and it becomes harder to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, if people like Catastrophe, I think it's probably because we are so invested in every aspect of the whole thing since we write it and produce it too. So we care to the point of pain about every little detail, and we would never want to, spread ourselves too thin or anything.
Care to the point of pain? What has been the most painful part of creating Catastrophe?
How long it takes to write, because it's just the two of us, and every single season we've written right up until the wire. There's literally there's so little time to even prep ourselves for playing those characters, because there's so many other things to think about. We've got to cast it, and we've got to find the right locations, and we've got to all of the stuff that takes headspace and time, but also realizing that the most important thing of the whole thing is the script and getting that right. And, it's just, I mean, geez, we're not down a coal mine or anything, but it's hard. It's hard work.
Right?
It's much harder than that.
Yeah.
It's more brave, too.
Yeah,
I think,
and you get black lung as well.
From the ink. There's no ink anymore.
We use ink.
What is your guys' process together, your writing process together? Do you get together? Is it over email? How are you beating out the story? Or how were you, since you're not anymore?
We really like to be together in the same room. For the first season, we would trade back and forth scripts a lot because I lived in Los Angeles at the time. But then we got to where it's just so much easier and faster to be in the same room and more fun. I've said before that if I sent you a script and then you wrote back via email, well, I think maybe this part we could, and I'd be like, oh really? I'd yell at my computer. But if you say that to my face, then I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Because you know how email makes it seem worse, So Sharon could be like, that part's not that funny, and I'd be like, yeah, you're really right in the room. But if it was via email, I'd throw my laptop out the window.
But no, yeah, it's much better to be in the room. I think when we start writing first, it's a bit more relaxed because we just sort of bandy about ideas and talk about, all the other characters that surround Rob and Sharon and build their stories up, because it kind of helps find story for us. And so that's the kind of more relaxed bit. And then we do these big old outlines. And then when we sit down to actually do it, we're just in a little room side by side for, nearly 4 months.
Writing next to
writing
each other?
Yeah.
You don't go to separate places to start writing? You're like, okay, you take that scene, I'll take this scene?
No, we just sit side by side.
Yeah, always in the same little chamber.
Yeah.
In the coal mine?
Chamber, cell, mine, shaft.
Obviously the characters are named Rob and Sharon. They're not entirely based off of you, but I'm sure so much of your experiences end up in the stories, end up in the scripts, end up in the show. Is there a catharsis that comes with the show that you think you guys will miss?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
For me, it's wonderful being that character and being able to say what I probably wouldn't have the wit or the bravery to say in real life. I'll really miss that.
But like, yeah, I mean, in terms of, I don't know if you showed it, if it's in the trailer that you just showed, but when I get squirted in the face, you've seen that part. You guys might not have seen that, but in real life, I was jogging one night and a guy rode up to me on a bike and squirted something in my face in darkness, and I
Was
was
he a
like,
teenager or a guy? Do you remember?
he was one of those in-betweeners.
Right.
I don't know what you call them. and
Dirtbag.
and there's like there have been acid attacks in London, so that happened to me, and I was like, great, I've been acid attacked. I feel myself start to go blind, and I was like, oh, no, it's just juice. And so I came in and told Sharon, I mean, like, the scariest thing happened, and I told you that, and you started laughing, and then we put it in the show. And so when that happened to me in real life, I was terrified, but doing it in the show, I've dealt with those feelings, and I'm no longer in treatment for PTSD.
And in the show, you get to sort of approach him and try to and yell back at him. You get some, like we said, catharsis in it, even though it's like still like very weak-willed and emasculating.
Oh my God.
But you get to end your story, don't you?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get to sort of full stop that experience. You should have done that
That's what I know, right?
How have your I'm curious, how have your partners over the years sort of responded to the show? As you've written, I'm sure parts of your life, I mean, no matter what you're writing, whether you're naming the characters after you, parts of your life are going to end up in it, even if it's a space fantasy. But in this, it's got to feel pretty specific sometimes.
Neither of our spouses really enjoyed the show, and so after the
Is
first,
that true?
Yeah, so after the first season, we told each of them that it had been canceled, and so they don't know that it's still running.
You've turned off all media for them for like the next 2 weeks.
You know how you put the locks on devices for your kids? They have those for spouses as well.
Do not go on Amazon, honey. Like,
Yeah.
sorry.
I mean, nobody really uses it anyway, so that's easy.
I never really talk about the show when we're writing it or when we're making it. So when it does go out, yeah, there's the occasional little surprise in there. But in general, I feel like it's removed enough from our own lives for there to be, much less crossover than there was. I think sometimes my husband wishes I talked as much as I do on the show, get to the bottom of problems a bit quicker, maybe on the show.
You're a much more silent, stoic person at home than Sharon is on the show.
Yeah, I think she's better at figuring stuff out. Yeah.
It's already come out in the UK and people have dissected this. It hasn't come out here yet, so I don't want to ruin anything. So we're gonna have to be kind of coy about this. And this is also, I don't want to pretend I'm smart. You inform me of this
Well,
in the green room.
words there.
Yeah. What has it been like to see the response to the ending?
It was amazing. I sat down to watch episode 6. It was the last episode. It was the only one I watched, like, go out live when everyone else was watching it, and I was definitely upset, like shedding a tear at the end. And then people's response to the ending was the thing that sort of, cheered me up.
I mean, it was nuts because, the Brexit is happening right now in the UK and all that stuff. And it was just totally knocked out of the headlines for a good week. Nobody was talking about anything but Catastrophe. And
Boris Johnson was tweeting about it angrily.
God, I mean, it was sort of like, I know Bach used to say, I didn't compose this music, God did through me. And I think for us to see what it did for the UK, and indeed the whole Commonwealth, I think, was just very humbling.
The whole Commonwealth. That's brilliant.
I think if we had more Catastrophe, they could really figure Brexit out and it wouldn't happen. Like, it could bring everybody together.
They'd forget about it. Yeah.
I think what was really nice about it was that it just sort of unsettled people. And that's a nice feeling at the end of a sitcom. It's nice to just slightly unsettle people.
I was shocked that it was intended to unsettle people. When I was talking to you about it, I wasn't unsettled at all. And it was very settled one way for me. But can you talk about creating something like that with ambiguity? Again, we're being very coy because it hasn't come out. But go watch it and then come back and watch this. I don't care about you sitting right now.
Yeah, I mean, we did want to have an ambiguous ending. We are very grateful that anybody would watch 5 minutes of the show, let alone a whole 4 seasons. So we wanted to give people an ending that they could kind of grapple with. We didn't want to tie it up in a bow. And so we did deliberately go after some ambiguity, genuinely out of respect for the lovely people who've watched the show.
Yeah, just to kind of involve them in it a
Yeah.
little bit, you know, to sort of have them write their own ending sort of thing. Also, it's really hard to end a show. It's really hard to think of something that isn't, you know, just a declaration of love, or, you know, it's...
That's what I thought it ended on.
But it is as well.
Yeah,
It's
it did,
just
it
not
did.
just. It's, you know, hopefully.
One of the ways that it goes is we kind of, as much as each season, you know, it has to culminate in sort of a big fight or like a big moment between this couple. I thought it was so interesting to hear Rob, the character's perspective on the relationship. Even though he's heated and as angry as possible, there's clearly some truth into his how he's been feeling about this relationship for so long. When did you guys find that truth about the character, or that at least that he felt that way?
I guess we sort of.
Or do you think he actually felt that way?
I think he did at that moment. Yeah, definitely.
And there was enough there in other seasons to absolutely feel like he
Support.
was justified in saying those things.
I think what we wanted to do, even as we were writing the first episode of the show, is we wanted to show that marriage is interesting. And we thought that a lot of sitcoms did it a disservice, where they'd have a husband being like, damn, football, and the wife being like, yeah, come here. And so that's not really real. You know, marriage is very difficult, but it's also fun and exciting and interesting and scary, and it's just much richer than we had seen expressed. So we just wanted to do that. So yeah, you loathe your spouse sometimes in a very good marriage, and you get still fascinated that they would even want to spend 3 seconds with you, let alone a lifetime, you know. And so we just wanted to really show marriage in its majesty.
Aw, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think my favorite line, this is not a question, but I'm just going to tell you, my favorite line of this season is, I think if you tried to initiate sex with me tonight, I'd just get angry with you.
I'm going to take that as a question, and no, I won't have sex with you tonight.
Okay.
And I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
I'm going to clarify. I think some of the audience might be surprised to hear that it's my character who says that.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, and that's kind of what makes
the
it.
penis member of the marriage.
The membered member.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
I think we have one audience question and one question coming from Twitter. The audience question. You, sir, you're an audience member.
Hey.
Big fan of the show.
Great, thanks.
This question's for Rob. I was curious, like, you going through playing a character who has like a relapse with alcoholism.
Yes.
Like, what was that process like for you?
Well, I'll be honest. I have been sober for 17 years now, and so I really am a real-life alcoholic who really did get help when he needed it, and I haven't drank since then, thank goodness. And so, that said, it wasn't like we were like, here's something, you know, weighty that we need to dive into. We were just like, you know what? That really happens in marriages and outside of marriages. People grapple with that. So we thought it would be a good story. And to be honest, it wasn't any more difficult or emotionally trying or upsetting. Like, I didn't feel unsafe or anything doing it, and we really wanted to do it in service of the story and in service of the character's marriage, to give them a real challenge. So I guess it sort of, and I think it was a good idea to show it as realistically as we could, just for the viewing public. So I guess it felt good to do it. It felt like right to do it. And I didn't drink or anything or want to drink, and I didn't do any cocaine either. Just kidding. I didn't. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Kidding, you did. What?
Look, what? Is this an intervention? Come on, man. No, that's an excellent question. Thank you. I like your shirt.
You know, you guys were friends before you started writing the show together, right? And then in your friendship, you started creating the show. And I imagine you've been friends while doing the show, but oftentimes, you know, work is the bigger thing within a friendship, and it can kind of not hurt the friendship, but just sort of separate it, because you have to focus on tasks at hand rather than just hanging out as friends. Now that the show is over, do you think you will be friends?
Well, now we'll have to. Now
Now you've really put us on the spot.
Yeah.
So
I'm
what are
always
we gonna
fascinated.
say?
Well, what
I'm
we'll
always
do, I
fascinated
think,
by that.
even if Sharon and I are unemployed for the rest of our lives, I think we should come back here every 6 months to check in on our friendship.
Yeah.
I think that would make
can talk
sense
about
as a
that.
segment in your show.
It's so weird, because we spend so much time together writing and making the show that when it stops, we're just like, see ya.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so much of your friendship is based around talking about this show now. So it's like, now that you don't have that to talk about.
I have a genuine answer to that, which is, it's weird when you're very lucky, like we are, to have a job that we truly enjoy, there can kind of be a mingling between friendship, like scratching the social itch and the work itch. So sometimes, like, you'll clock out and go home, and then you'll be like, well, I don't need to do anything social. I had fun all
Yes,
day.
it's
But in
true.
fact, they are a little bit different, you know? So I know a lot of people who do what we do, like, don't have friends, you know what I mean? Because you just work and your job is fun, and then you go home and like look at a wall, you know?
Yeah.
And so now that it's over, I'd like to be your friend.
I'd like to be your friend too. Oh my God.
There it is.
That's why we did the show.
That was the moment that I wanted, guys. You heard it here. We have a question from Twitter. Hi, guys. As writers writing from real life experience, are there any topics off limits?
Hashtag build series.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Well, I mean, in real life, I have a very my penis is misshapen. I have a frightening looking penis.
I've heard
but
that
on the
about you.
show, I wear a thing that makes it look normal. So that's off limits for me. I would never talk about, you know, when it's up to me, I tell the world my penis is normal when in real life it isn't.
What would be a real life experience? I would say, I mean, not that we had teenage kids in the show, but if I were to do a different project, I think my kids and what my daughters get up to in real life would be off limits because their experiences are not mine to take. I would feel really worried about doing that. You know, everyone else in my life is different.
Everyone else is fair game.
Yeah, I'll steal their stories, but yeah, not my kids.
You know, in between last season and this season, the two of you had success in other places as well. Game Night was such a wonderful comedy that came out last year, and you had this incredible cameo in Deadpool 2. How did that come about? I thought it was the best punchline of the movie was when you appeared in the movie.
Thanks. I'm happy to report that Ryan Reynolds saw and enjoyed Catastrophe.
Amazing.
And so he called me and said, hey, do you want to be in Deadpool 2? And I said, yes. And he said, do you want to know what I'd like you to do in it? And I said, no. And then I got on a plane to Vancouver and had an amazing time on that. I mean, that was so much fun. Ryan Reynolds was amazing. Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who write it with him, and David Leitch, who directed it. I mean, unbelievably fun.
And how did Game Night come about for you? It was so nice to see like a big studio comedy know to use you and use you well and give you all of some of the best jokes.
Oh, thanks. It was exactly the same. John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein had seen Catastrophe, and it was the same thing.
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Well, Catastrophe is so wonderful, guys. I'm sad to see it go, but you did such a wonderful job of ending it. It premieres tomorrow on Amazon Prime. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Oh my God,
guys.
it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. And then you're done. You
Watch
never have
it.
to talk to each other again.
Oh, no. I mean, the UK and the US are only 2 of the 130 countries that it broadcasts in. So
32.
this is a global tour that will never
Me in
end.
Bulgaria
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
Build Bulgaria
Yeah,
series.
it's a global sensation.
We
Don't
are
sell it
gonna
short.
milk this.
Rob and Sharon, everybody, let's hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you.